Hey guys, how's it going? This is Johnny at DIY Health, and today we're going to talk about soil. Alright, when talking about soil, and specifically with raised beds or in-ground beds, we first have to ask ourselves, what kind of soil am I working with? What kind of soil do I have in my particular region? And I would say that there's four main types of soils that you need to evaluate. One, you have sandy soil. Two, silty soil. Three, clay soil. And then four, loamy soil. I'm going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each one. Are you ready? Let's do it. So the first soil is sandy soil. Sandy soil is more on the warmer side. It has very large particles, so the soil itself doesn't bind together well. Sandy soil can be good for warmer climates and specific plants, but the drainage is perhaps the biggest downfall with that. Oh, and also with sandy soil, it doesn't hold much nutrients. Silt soil has about intermediate size particles, so they bind together but not as much as clay, and they bind better together than the sandy soil, okay? So now, silty soil holds a little bit more moisture, and it also has a little bit more nutrients. Clay soil is very hard to work with. The soil can be pretty cold, so it can stunt plant growth during the winter time. The particles are really small, so they bind together, and your drainage therefore can be very poor with clay soil. So with these three different types, you have advantages and disadvantages. However, your ideal soil is loamy soil. You kind of want a mixture of them all, silt, sand, and clay, to get your optimal soil. The best soil that you can have is basically one that has good aeration, that has well drainage but yet retains enough moisture and has enough mineral content, and that is fertile for your plants. But how do you know which soil do you have? Let's go outside. Alright guys, so when we talk about what to know what kind of soil you have, I'm just going to show you very quick and easy how you can see for yourself. So I would suggest taking a few samples around your yard, maybe 4 or 5 different samples, just to get a variety to see. You want to get about a handful of dirt, and you just put the handful, you put some water with it. And we talked about how you can have sandy, silty, or clay kind of soil. If you play with your mud ball and you say, okay, it's really gritty, then it's going to be more of sand. If it's really smooth and soapy, then it's going to be silt. And if it sticks together like a rope, it's going to be more like clay. And so I have a little bit of mixture of all, of course, but it's predominantly clay, as you can see, and some silt. So this is an easy way for you just to figure out, okay, this is the kind of soil I have, so that way you can have a better approach to know what soil amendments and fertilizers you may need to be able to manage that. Okay. Another factor that you want to consider about your soil after you know what kind of soil that you're dealing with, and like I said, try to take different soil tests. Take 3, right? Another factor to consider after you have tried multiple spots to see what kind of soil that you have is also consider your soil pH. Soil pH is basically a numerical scale from 0 to 14 that basically explains whether your soil is alkaline or acidic. 0 being acidic, alkaline being 14, 7 being neutral. Most plants grow around the 6 and 7 numerical scale line. So you need to make sure you know what kind of pH is in your soil, and if you need to make any special adjustments in order to grow your plants. Things that can help your pH will be specific soil amendments and soil fertilizers, which we'll talk about later in this episode. Action. Ouch. Man, it's cold. All right guys, just to give you a quick example of soil testing at home, today we're going to use the Rapid Test Soil Test Kit, and we're specifically going to go through the pH. It basically gives you 4 tests here for potash, phosphorus, or nitrogen, and as well as the pH. So let's get started. What's really cool about the Rapid Test Soil Test Kit is that actually comes with a whole bunch of awesome instructions, and it gives you all kinds of guidelines, and depending on the soil ratings that you get, it gives you some advice about how you can meet your soil's needs to make it optimal health. And it comes with the different colored pills for this testing, and specifically for pH, I took multiple soil samples. They advise to do at least 3 to 4 inches in the ground of soil, and then take from different spots and then combine them together. All right, so I have different mixed soil here. So I'm just gonna take a little bit, and there's this line indicator here. It basically shows you where the soil needs to go, and then there's a line for water to show you how much you need to fill. So I'm just gonna fill it up. I might spill a little bit, but that's okay, it's no problem. A little bit over. Just a little bit more. Okay, good, perfect. Now, gonna fill it up with water. One, 2, almost there. Okay. Okay, I got the water in, and now I'm gonna throw in the capsule. Stuck my tooth, sorry. All right. So you just open the capsule and pour it in. Then you want to put it on really tight and shake it. Shake it, shake it. And then you just want to let it sit for a little while until the soil settles down, and then it will give you a specific color. Mercy, thing got stuck in my tooth, man. So as you can see, we're between a 6 and a 6.5 rating here. So slightly acidic, almost to neutral. This is a good indicator for us just to let us know that we're pretty much on the right track. We just need to add a little bit of something to make it a little bit more neutralized. If you are wondering, hey, you know, this is the reading of my pH, what can I do to make my soil better? Here is a whole diagram here with the testing kit that says, has a whole section talking about adjusting your soil pH and how much to apply. And it gives you the specific units here for the specific kind of soil that you got. Okay, let's see what's next. All right, guys. So now that you know what the pH is of your soil and what kind of soil that you're dealing with, we're gonna talk about how to fill your pots at home. Okay, yeah, so you may be a little overwhelmed. Oh man, how do I fill my raised bed, or how do I do my in-ground bed? Or if I'm just doing indoor gardening, what do I fill my pots with? You don't want to go through a long process. I have a shortcut for you, specifically with the indoor growing. It's pretty simple. Here we like to use something called Happy Frog. Let me show you. Happy Frog is just basically a potting soil mix. Basically for the indoor pots, you just want to open up your bag. It's quite more simpler than the in-ground bed. You want to make sure when doing your indoor growing that you have proper drainage and aeration for your plants, so that way when you water it, the water can drain out and it doesn't get your plants sick. So basically you just want to put enough soil in here. Some people have, I mean, there's many different ways you can do direct potting soil for plants within pots. I personally like to mix a little bit of dirt in my pots, just so that way I can preserve my potting soil a little bit longer, because it can be a little bit more expensive. Happy Frog is a little bit more on the more pricey side, but you can definitely find cheaper options. So as you can see, I filled it up almost to the brim here. You can, depending on the size of your pot, you just fill it up accordingly, and then you can plant directly there. If you're using like a 5-gallon bucket, you just want to make sure that you drill proper drainage holes. Just draw specific proper drainage holes. And one more here. So you make sure you have proper drainage, and you would fill it up with your Happy Frog or any kind of potting soil that you're going to use, and you grow from there. Okay guys, if you're trying to do raised beds, it can be quite tricky for you to figure out, okay, how am I going to fill this raised bed? I would say first, after you determine your pH and your soil type, you need to consider how much money that you have. If you really want like just the quick go-to answer, you could just do some research, depending on your soil type and pH, how you can fill up your garden bed from things from the store, such as topsoil or garden soil. And then you have to calculate the volume of your garden bed and then determine that way to fill it. But if you're more on a budget, there's many ways that you can do some research online to see some different resources on how to do filling your garden beds on a budget. So I would just advise you, after you have a knowledge of all the things that your soil is, to see how you can do it for your best circumstance. So that's how I would suggest for you to fill your raised bed. Okay guys, just to let you know, there is a formula to figure out your volume. After you know the measurements of your bed, you just want to do the width times the height times the length. That will give you your volume, and once you get the number for your volume, it will give you the exact measurements that you need to know in order to fill up your raised bed. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how we can prepare a raised bed practically. Let's go! Okay guys, I'm just going to show you how we can quickly prepare a bed. I'm going to use 3 tools today. There's many other tools that you can choose from, but I'm going to use a broad fork, a shovel, and a rake. So the very first thing you want to do in preparing a bed is to relieve the bed of the weeds. So as you can see, we have many things growing here. I'm just going to rake these out. My soil is pretty soft right now, so it's pretty easy to get rid of these weeds from the surface. For you, it may not be so easy. You may have to hand pluck them out like this. So basically the idea is I want to clear the weeds from the soil, from the surface of the soil. Make it nice and looking good. And depending on where you're at, some may be definitely harder to remove. So using your hand or using the rake, it's really up to what your ground is like. So I'm going to just show you from this little patch of what we can do to prepare this bed for the next crop. So I pulled out all of this here, and now I'm going to show you the first method. The first method that we like to use is probably the most common for you at home, is just simply digging in and turning over the soil. What this does and why it's important is that sometimes our dirt beyond the surface level can be very clumped together, or there can be lots of rocks underneath the dirt, and this helps bring the rocks and some things up to surface. So that way you can air out your soil and let it be more loose for the better development of your plants, and you can remove the stones from the soil as well. So as you can see, my soil is actually pretty soft here. It's not as compact, but there is some chunks. So I break down the chunks, and this is pretty much the first method. You could do the whole bed this way, but I'm going to show you another method that I like. This second method is broad forking. Broad forking is really nice. It helps you to get really deep in the soil, and you basically just put it down as far as you can and lift up. Right now, I'm getting a stop here, so it tells me that I have something underneath that I'm going to have to address. But basically, the broad fork is a really nice way to bring a lot of air, more air into your soil. It's pretty efficient as well. As you can see, I'm bringing a lot more soil up at one time than compared to the shovel. All right, so now that we are doing this, you would do this for your whole bed all the way down, and then if there's any stones or any remnants of weeds, pull them out, and these big dirt clods will handle with the rake. So the rake, basically, you just want to rake in your soil. You can destroy the dirt clods with the rake at the same time, and you want to level it out. Level it out so that way planting for you can be done in the most efficient and the most orderly manner as possible, and that you can have proper drainage. Something that doing the soil with, when it comes down to the shovel and broad fork, on why it's beneficial is because it not only gives you more air for the soil and for the plants to be able to function, but it gives you better opportunities for proper drainage. So that is some key elements for you. And you just want to keep going until it's level. And once it's level, you're pretty much done with your bed prep and you're ready to plant. Okay guys, now we're going to talk a little bit about soil fertilizers. Your soil fertility can be altered based on crop rotation, how much you're digging in the soil, the tilling, and just the nutrients being sucked out of the soil just from growing the plants itself. So sometimes it is absolutely necessary to give some soil fertilizers in there to help bring your soil to ultimate health to grow your plants. Now there's two types of soil fertilizer. You have organic and inorganic. Organic is basically made of compost or other dried organic material, and then inorganic is basically synthetic fertilizer, which contains minerals and also other chemicals. It's up to you, and there's much great debate on which one should be used. That's up to you and your personal preference. There's four main nutrients that your soil typically needs and for your plants. That is potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and nitrogen. For an extensive list to know what these are needed for, what they're good for, and what resources that you can use, check out the description below. All right, let's talk a little bit about soil amendments. Soil amendments are basically there to help you improve the structure of your soil. So if you need better aeration, you need better moisture, you need better drainage, soil amendments are there to help you accomplish this task. But like I said earlier with the soil fertilizers, it is best for you to know after the soil test, so that way you're not feeding the soil with amendments that aren't absolutely necessary for your soil. Okay, So soil fertilizers and soil amendments come in many shapes and sizes, colors. Just take a look here. You can see that we have many different bags with many different names, and they all have different reasons and implications for the soil. So you'll just have to do some research for your specific soil's needs. Comment below which brands that you like to use, and now let's do our health nugget. Just as soil is the foundation for healthy plants, simple lifestyle changes today will bring you a healthy tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of Soil. Don't forget to plow that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time at DIY Health. How is it growing?